and welcome to All Things STEM with Ashley. I am your host, Ashley, and today we have Janessa Wilkins as our guest. Janessa was born in Queens, New York, and later moved upstate to Troy, New York, where she attended high school. She pursued electrical engineering at Morgan State University in Baltimore, Maryland, and interned at the University of Maryland and Exelon Corporation. After graduating in May 2014, she began her engineering career at Sandia National Laboratories in Albuquerque, New Mexico, as a component engineer through her master's fellowship program, which allowed her to attend graduate school tuition-free. In 2014, she started her graduate studies at Texas A&M University, focusing on power systems, and earned her master's in engineering in December 2015. She continued her studies at Sandia National Laboratories, working in the components engineering group until 2018, when she transitioned to a thermal battery test engineering group. In 2019, she moved to Texas to work as a component engineer for a missile defense company, where she currently works now. So today, we will welcome Janessa Wilkins.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good. How about yourself?
Good. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
I'm very excited to hear about your STEM journey.
Yes.
And why you pursued electrical engineering, what components engineering is, and things like that.
Okay. So thank you for having me. Thank you for giving me that intro as well. So as you know, currently right now I'm in a missile defense company as a component engineer, but my background academically is electrical engineering.
Yeah.
So starting off with like how I kind of got into it. So in high school, you know, I was kind of undecided on what I wanted to do. I've always been pretty academic, and I knew I was going to college. I just didn't know what I wanted to do.
Right.
So between my sophomore year and my junior year, I went to a program at a local university called Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute, which is a very popular engineering school in upstate New York.
Okay.
This program was designated to kind of help young women, especially minority women, kind of get acclimated and familiar with engineering and other STEM-related fields.
Oh.
So I attended that, and it was a really good program, giving me a lot of insight on engineering, just what it is, how diverse, you know, the different disciplines within engineering were, and things like that. So after completing that program, which was the summer program, I kind of did some research on, you know, different types of engineering, seeing what fit me the best. You know, at the time I was really into like physics, mathematics, things like that. So when I did the research, I knew I wanted to go to a historically black college or university. So I intentionally kind of looked at universities that offered programs, and once I decided I wanted to do electrical engineering, I kind of focused in on that and applied to different colleges and universities that offered that career path. So that was kind of my introduction, and you know, my first glance into what engineering was, and you know, of course, like how to go about having a successful career in engineering through college. So
I love that. That's super cool. You don't hear much about components engineering
at
all.
It's not major, so it's like you don't really hear about it until you get to the level like where you're out of school. So you know, like I said, I'm electrical engineering, and so my first job, well, my focus when I was in school was kind of on like computer engineering. My first job straight out of school was at a research laboratory, and the group that hired me was a component reliability group. So I was the person that checked to make sure that all the electrical components in those weapon systems were reliable, essentially, through testing. That being said, that was my first professional introduction into my career, and so, you know, I liked what I did. I liked, you know, the work I did and the people I worked with. So I decided I liked to kind of stay in that realm. But I didn't want to move out of New Mexico. So when I applied to the company that I'm currently working for, I knew that I wanted to stay within this like reliability components kind of engineering group. And so I found a position that still offered that very similarly to the last position I left. And so I've been sticking with that ever since. And the electrical engineering is really helpful for this role because it gives me kind of that background on just electrical components, period. So like how they function, what they are, just identifying them, finding alternates that suffice in the functions of the part. Having that electrical background has helped me with that within this component engineering group. So
you answered all of my questions. I was gonna say, what does electrical what is can you give us an overview of electrical engineering, then an overview of what components is and how they kind of differ, but like you said, how they work hand in hand.
Got you. Okay, so electrical engineering is the study of the way electricity works.
Right.
And so with that being said, it's taking that knowledge or that information and applying it to engineering applications. So pretty much engineering as a whole is just solving problems.
Yeah.
And then you have these different disciplines. So electrical is solving these problems electrically.
Okay.
And so with that, when you're in college and you're getting that education, they're teaching you identifying electrical problems, learning how to characterize different situations when it comes to electricity. So calculating how much voltage you need, current, things of that nature is kind of like the basis of electrical engineering.
Right.
Learning how other engineering disciplines kind of tie into that. So with component engineering, the parts that I'm responsible for are electrical parts. So for me, if I'm going and doing an analysis like I do in my current role, where I do these analysis for these parts lists, and I notice that there's this resistor that's, let's say obsolete at the moment, I could go in with my electrical engineering knowledge and say, okay, well, this is a 200,000 ohm resistor, so it provides this much resistance. What can we find out there in the market that's able to do the similar application that this part would have done, that's available, that's not obsolete. So having that knowledge, that background is really helpful to be able to make informed decisions to kind of help us, help the group and the company, navigate around those kind of like obsolescence and procurement problems.
I love that.
Yeah.
Thank you. Can you tell us about any role models or mentors that you had that helped shape your STEM journey?
So I would say probably one of the biggest influences for me to pursue my engineering curriculum was my best friend Aziza back home.
Yeah.
Because like I said, at the beginning of high school, kind of middle of high school, I was kind of indecisive of what I really wanted to do, and I was like, oh, maybe I want to be a lawyer, and so she kind of was the one that kind of was able to really see how talented I was in these STEM related subjects,
Right.
math, our physics classes, our science classes, things like that. And she was like, I think you would do well doing engineering. Her brother did engineering.
Right.
So she was a little bit more insightful onto what engineering was and kind of how to navigate that. So she was the one that told me, you should really look into, doing engineering. Yeah. And it was such a timely time because it was around the time that program at Mr. Polytechnic Institute was opening and having applications for young women to go. So it was that really helped guide and push me in that direction.
Yeah.
And then so in addition to her, also just my high school guidance counselor, she was very big on getting students of color into historically black colleges and universities. Yes. With us being in upstate New York, we were pretty far from where most HBCUs are located in the country, so you didn't get a lot of exposure to things like that when we had college fairs and stuff. It was usually local, New York schools, Northeast schools, stuff like that. You rarely ever saw HBCU, so it wasn't a lot of information regarding that.
Right.
And so she really was helping me when I was picking through colleges to see who had this engineering program that would be, fit my needs and what I wanted to do.
Right.
She was the one that was helping me find schools and pushing me to apply to these schools that did offer the engineering programs that I was looking to do. So those probably were my two biggest STEM related influences. So yeah.
Were there any challenges you faced growing up that made pursuing a STEM journey difficult?
I believe the challenges that I really had were not necessarily aligned to STEM themselves, but just kind of growing up, I guess lower middle class to middle class, where it's money, college tuition is always where's this money going to come from? Got a plateau of scholarships that are available out there. And so for me, it was more so like if we will be able to sustain me going into this program and actually seeing it through for all 4 years. And so that in and of itself was probably the challenge. Now, academically, it was a pretty challenging program. It's engineering, so it is a lot of math, a lot of science, and even with me, who's a little more math and science favored, I definitely feel like there was times where it was just like a lot. It was a lot more. College is just a big transition from high school. And so it's like learning time management, learning how to manage my procrastination, which was always a part of me. Things of that nature kind of were really like the challenges I faced while matriculating through my college journey in engineering, so that I was able to come out and still be successful. Right. So it was a learning curve, and trying to decide if I'm gonna stay up all night and study or get 6 to 8 hours of sleep. And that's a real decision you gotta make when you're in college. So it's like, learning that for the first time, and then you're on your own. I was in Maryland, my family was in New York, so it's like, just going through everything that you go through when you're in college, whether that's family related stuff, deaths in the family, things that you're not present for anymore, and navigating that just like emotionally while still being able to get the good grades, keep your scholarships, keep your honors and everything like that is probably some of the challenges that most college kids are going to run into, especially in like the STEM field that's so demanding, and so
Well, thank you.
No problem.
What is one project or accomplishment that you are most proud of during your STEM career journey?
I actually have two, but one is, more actually to my career, and the other one is kind of just a general professional accomplishment. So in my current company that I'm at right now, there was this really big project that kind of was sitting, collecting dust for a long time because it was such a huge project that took so much time that a lot of people weren't really willing to do it, or people would get in this role and do it for 2 or 3 years, and this was a project that would have taken a couple years to actually implement and successfully put out, so people weren't sticking around long enough to even see it through. On a high level, I could talk to it, and it's basically like there was these projects, and it was hundreds of thousands of parts lists that needed to have some type of analysis to make sure that we had these parts and they're not obsolete, like they were still procurable and things of that nature. But it took so long to actually get all these parts lists together, and so much time dedicated to sorting through this data. And so basically when it was presented to me, I kind of became one-track minded, but I, was the first person to actually go in and complete that project, see it through, and then finally be able to provide answers to all these test engineers that I work with in my group to figure out, what's going on with these parts, and then start navigating and fixing some of these issues that have been sitting there for years. So
that's excellent.
I was really proud about that. And then the second thing that I am proud of, at my former company, the first company that I got when I graduated undergrad, I was the first direct hire from Morgan State University.
Oh, wow.
And so at the time, they did have a HBCU initiative, but my school was a smaller school, not very well known. And and then HBCUs are already not very well known on top of that, when you overshadow with these bigger universities and research schools. And so with that being said, since I came out and I was the first person that they actually recruited directly from the school, I kind of put our name on the list so that now they go there and recruit every year. So it was, nice being kind of the trailblazer, or the person that kind of initiated that relationship between the company and the university. So I'm really happy to have bridged that gap that was previously there prior to my, arrival to the company. So
that is huge. That's like historical.
So I really am happy because they have such a good relationship, and now they recruit there multiple times a year and everything. So
you're passing it forward.
I'm really happy about that.
Creating a pipeline.
Exactly. So
thank you. Thank you for sharing that. That is super cool.
Thank you.
Now I want to transition to how you see new emerging technologies like AI affecting the electrical engineering space. I know that's your background and your components now, but how do you feel like artificial intelligence will do that? We see it everywhere. We see model-based systems, AI, everywhere we look nowadays. It's everywhere. So how do you feel like it's going to affect?
I believe that AI, I feel like the purpose of AI is kind of to automate certain things that previously were done by people. But I always say, like, anytime there's any type of new technology that's being built, there's engineers behind it. So electrical engineering is a very broad kind of engineering. So, there's different disciplines within it. And so for, someone in my position who deals mostly with parts is, AI does require, circuit boards, things like that make them run. So to me, I feel like, one, you'll see a shift in like electrical engineering and like where things were a little bit more analog, a little bit more mechanical in the olden days, are now kind of shifting to this more digital, electrical kind of field. And so I think a lot of the disciplines behind electrical engineering are kind of going to shift more to this more software, more computer-based type of discipline, if that makes sense.
It does.
Yeah, I think AI, I like it because I think it does create more opportunities for electrical engineering. I know a lot of other fields and disciplines are a little more concerned, thinking they'll take more jobs. And, in some situations that may be true. But for engineering, one thing I really like about engineering is you'll always need an engineer. Any type of new technology, you'll always need engineering behind it to help it function, to make it go. There was a phrase my professor used to say, and I can't remember the exact phrase, but basically it said, computers are good at computing and that's it. So they're not good at deciphering. So you could program a machine to pick up product A and put it in the box to put on shelves to sell to people. But it's just going to do that. If product A, one of them is defective, it's still going to pick it up and put it in the box and put it on the shelf and send it to somebody, where a person is going to say, oh, this is defective, let me pull it out. Computers don't know to do that. They just do what you tell them to do. And that is why I always feel like engineering is always going to be safe. You always need a human factor behind everything you do.
I agree.
So I think that the new technology to me is exciting. I'm excited to see what kind of, opportunities is going to open up and see what else is going to bring forward as far as the engineering goes. So
thank you.
No worries.
That was excellent.
Thank you.
Next, I want to talk about how does electrical engineering interact with other disciplines such as computer science, mechanical engineering, or civil engineering.
Gotcha. Okay. So electrical engineering is very broad, but I think all engineers kind of touch each other and kind of have a little bit of overlap with each other. So with electrical engineering is very closely related to computer engineering as well, to the point where a lot of electrical engineers I know have, a minor or, are focused in their computer engineering under their electrical engineering curriculum. So it does touch on that. A lot of electrical engineers go towards maybe the software side, programming, things of that nature that really do kind of coincide really heavily with computer engineering. I know for my specific role right now, I work with mechanical engineers because some parts are electrical and mechanical parts. So it's always a decision of, are we considering this triple E part, electrical and electronic part, or is this considered more of a mechanical part? And kind of incorporating both of those together to make this function could kind of really make you understand how much you need to know about at least basic mechanical engineering applications and things like that. So it is important to touch on a little bit of everything. I have some friends who do work with civil engineers, industrial engineers, things of that nature. And their specific company and their role in that company might be a little more aligned with those kind of disciplines, whether it's a company that builds construction, something like that. You kind of have to work all those together. So you do have to get a little bit of knowledge of every kind of engineering to be in my opinion, a successful electrical engineer. So, yeah.
I love that.
Thank you.
Great explanation.
Yes.
So now I want to ask about how, since electrical engineering is such a broad field, what are some different career paths that people can take that they might not be aware of?
Okay. So this is a great question. So like I said, we just talked to like computer engineering, right? And so there's that's very heavily under there. There's power systems. I focused a little bit of that in grad school, so that's a very popular field in engineering. There's signal processing, there's robotics, aeronautics could fall under electrical engineering. Right. It's a lot of different fields. I even have friends from like when I was an undergrad that actually went on to like law school and everything. It's very broad. It's a very broad field, and so I have friends who are audio engineers, things of that nature. And so electrical is a very broad umbrella, and there's a lot of things that fall under it that a lot of people don't think to realize. Like I had a friend who wanted to be a DJ, and that's all he ever wanted. He just wanted to be a DJ. He thought his parents were very traditional, and they were like, you're going to college, I don't care what you study. And so he ended up doing electrical engineering, and it actually helped him in his career of being a DJ. So he was able to do that full time with some knowledge and background that other DJs probably don't have, because they just started out being a DJ and then going that route. So it does encase a lot of different disciplines. And so I always tell people, especially starting out in engineering, if you're an electrical engineering and you feel like, I don't know if I want to stick with this, wait it out a little bit, because I didn't find out what I really like to do until my junior year of college, within engineering, I should say. So sometimes you got to stick it out and take those different electives and figure out, okay, this is the path I want to be on. And so, yes.
Did y'all hear that, Jim? Stick it out.
Stick it out. It is
different
tough,
electives.
But yes, you sometimes don't find out what you like till very late. My friend's little sister, she went for mechanical engineering, and she felt the same way. She was like, I don't know if I like this. And I told her, I was like, you might not have taken the class yet. It's usually that one class that really like turns it around for you and makes you realize, okay, this is what I like and this is what I want to do, and when I go to the industry, this is what I'm going to try to get into. So
I love that.
Yeah.
Thank you. Right. So I want to ask, how do you see the field of electrical engineering changing over the next 5 to 10 years?
I believe with the new technologies that are coming about, I feel like it's going to be like a shift from kind of the older product and service driven kind of engineering companies such as TI, HP, Dell, to more of the software based companies like Apple, Google, Yahoo. I joined NSB about 2010, 2011.
Can you explain what
NSB is? NSB is the National Society of Black Engineers. So it's the largest student run organization in the world, and it's for Black engineers. But anybody could be a member of NSB, but that is who the organization focuses on.
Thank you. I just wanted to
no worries.
People that may not know what the acronym stands for, even though we know, I like to explain it. But sorry, go ahead.
No worries. So one thing I noticed, like going to the earlier career fairs versus going now, you do see a lot more software-based companies at these career fairs. Like I said, you still see, in addition to the older companies, you know, the product-driven companies and the service-driven companies, you'll see a lot more software-driven companies. So now we have Twitter there, now we have Snapchat there, now we have Facebook there, you know, those type of companies that are more software-driven companies seem to be very popular. You know, brick and mortar is kind of moving out in the retail world. And you know, you're getting Amazon. Exactly. It's kind of the same shift you see in the engineering world as well.
Oh wow.
So I always tell people who are thinking about engineering, especially electrical engineering, to kind of hone in on those like software skills, those programming skills, those digital analytics and things of that, those type of skills. Those are really, really gonna be taken off and are currently taking off, next 5 to 10 years in this industry. So
good. Are there any certifications you would recommend to software engineers out there or people in the workforce that can help with kind of that software tip you mentioned? Yeah,
so I would definitely say learn the languages. There's a lot of programming languages. There's a lot of them. Java seems to be pretty popular. Programming skills, Java, C, Pound, those type of languages are very important. And also, if you can, and if you have the time to, getting a professional engineering degree is really helpful. It makes your resume really stand out and really strong against other candidates if you are like searching for a job or anything like that. So I definitely think that having those type of skills are very important if you're trying to get into software engineering. Knowing how to program is going to be like key to getting into a lot of these bigger name companies, these big software companies.
Thank you.
No
that
problem.
was excellent. I wanted to ask, because you have your master's in electrical engineering as well.
Yes.
What made you pursue a master's while already working in the field, and how has it helped advance your career?
So I decided I wanted to get a master's degree probably my first semester of my senior year. And the reason was because I felt like even though I had interned, I didn't have enough industry experience where I felt confident into knowing what I wanted to do once I graduated.
Right.
So it was like a decision to help me build my resume, kind of make me a stronger candidate, and also give me a little bit more time to do more internships and stuff like that, and kind of venture out a little bit more to see what I really wanted to do when I graduated. So with that being said, I figured, all right, I'm going to do what I can to keep my grades real high, because I do want to get into grad school, and I want to get into a pretty good grad school. So my senior year, I kept my grades up, finished out my classes, and started looking at schools to apply to. Fortunately, in the midst of doing all that in my search, I got a job at a national research laboratory in New Mexico. And they actually offered to pay for my grad school in exchange for me coming to work for them a couple months after I graduated. So, of course, I couldn't pass up on that offer. Amazing, a guaranteed job and free grad school. So, after I graduated, I started working with them. I applied to Texas A&M University and got accepted into that school. And so I applied under the electrical engineering program and ended up attending that school in fall of 2014. So
that's excellent.
Thank you.
So how did you balance work full-time? Well, did you work full-time while you were doing that, or they did it after?
So while we was on campus, we weren't required to work. Okay. And so our job was to be a student full time. So they gave you 3 semesters to get through the graduate program. Okay. So it was about 30 credits, so about 10 credits a semester. Okay, that's not bad. Yeah, not too bad. And so we only had to work full time in the summertime, so in between semesters.
That's excellent.
Yeah, so it wasn't bad at all. And so while in school, I didn't have to worry about balancing. We was paid 60% of our salary while we was on campus.
That's a steal.
Yeah, it was a big deal. It was, especially when you're a broke college, go from being a broke college kid to now you're like at college but have money. It's like such a different experience. But it was really nice. And so summertime we came back. We worked for those 3 months, at the laboratories, and then we went back to school and got our degrees. So
So do they still have that program for anybody that would be interested? Or?
Yes, this is called the Master's Fellowship Program, and this was my former company, Sandia National Laboratory. So if you are looking to get a free master's degree in engineering, it has to be under engineering. Okay. That is a good company to look at. Okay.
I will put that in the show notes in YouTube underneath.
Thank you.
People are interested. So thank you for sharing that. People don't know about it until word of mouth.
I didn't know about it either until the recruiter I spoke with. I actually spoke with him at a Black Engineer of the Year Awards conference. Baya. We spoke. He took my resume. He was, impressed with my job skill, my GPA at the time, and all that. So he was like, I'm going to keep this, and I will reach out to you. And I was like, okay. And I didn't hear for 3 months. So I was like, whatever. But one day they called, and they was like, we want to fly you to New Mexico and do an interview for this master's program. And I was like, okay.
That's amazing. So I will have that research lab in the show notes. Yes. So thank you. That's super unique. Everybody has such great journeys. So getting back to your career. Okay. What is the best piece of career advice you've ever received?
The best piece of career advice, which I tell everybody, is to network. networks. A lot of times it's not what you know or even what you did. A lot of times it's who you know.
Right.
And so when you're out and you're at these, if you're in college or even if you're in your career, go to conferences, go to networking events, join your local NSBE, go to their social events, network with people and get to know people, because that will really help drive your career. I have a lot of friends scattered out throughout the whole country, and they are great resources if I ever were to want to relocate, if I was ever looking, I could hit them for references and things like that. It is important to talk to people.
That's so
very
good.
Important.
Thank you for that.
Nope.
So, looking back, is there anything you would have done different in your STEM journey?
I think the only thing I would have done differently for me personally is I probably would have been more vigilant about networking earlier in my college matriculation, because I feel like engineers were kind of known to be a little more shy and introverted naturally, and I think for me that probably held me back from some opportunities that I could have gotten or earlier, or been more exposed to, had I been able to kind of jump out of my shell a little bit better.
Right.
So I think for me it's just meeting the right people, being in the right rooms, and being more vigilant about going to NSBE conferences. It was always like, oh, I don't have the money to go, or something like that, and that really probably would have helped shape my career differently had I been able to figure out a way to make it happen, you know what I mean, and try to get in a room and find out, is there scholarships for these type of conferences, is there, any type of sponsorships or anything like that will allow me to, attend and, get out and meet more people. So that's probably the one thing I probably would have wished I did better.
I love that. And me and you met through networking. We met at a networking event after I moved to Dallas, and we're here now.
Yes, we did. We did.
Great connection.
It is.
So I want to ask, have you been involved in any initiatives or minority groups to help underrepresented groups or young women pursue STEM fields?
So I spoke to this a little bit earlier, so I'll speak to it a little bit more in depth. But the summer between my my sophomore year and junior year, of high school, I went to that program at RPI, Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute, that was aimed at getting minority women specifically, into engineering. So it was like our first real introduction into engineering and just STEM in general. So they had us learning what engineering was, learning the different disciplines of engineering. We were mentored under these students who are currently attending the university under engineering. And so it was a great resource to kind of help get that exposure to us, where we didn't have it before. None of us, had engineers in our family, or really, had that exposure prior to this program. So I think that program was really, really important and really, necessary. So
and what is the program called again? Do they still have it?
They don't. This program was back in 2008.
Oh wow.
I'm old. But they had since, I believe, right before COVID or during COVID, they stopped doing the program. Right. So, and it was just like a local program. So it was very specific. It was people who lived in Troy, New York.
That makes sense.
Yeah, so it wasn't really it didn't have a lot of exposure outside, but it was a great program. And ironically, I actually met somebody who I later reconnected with in college at that program. He was from California. And then we ended up both in Texas at the same time and both studying engineering.
Small world.
Very small world. So we went from kids to adults, and seeing each other matriculate through this engineering was really cool. You know? So it was a great program. It was a really great program.
I love that. Thank you, Janessa.
No problem.
Next, I wanted to ask, what advice would you give to students that are looking to study electrical engineering?
So my advice, like I said 1,000 times already, networking, knowing people, stepping out of your shell. And networking doesn't always mean selling yourself engineering wise, just having conversation, engaging with people, connecting. If you have LinkedIn, things like that, those are great resources. Great resource to stay connected to people, because you don't know who knows who. And so that could very well be, a 5-minute conversation in the elevator could very well be your next job opportunity, your next career, move. So that's definitely a good one. Also, I would say get a mentor. Yes. They will help you. There are some times where you're just I want to quit. I'm done with this. This is too hard. And that mentor is really important, not only for academic, but just for your mental and your emotional.
Yes.
Sometimes you need the advice of someone older, wiser, who's been in your shoes,
right,
to help you keep pushing and really like give you that push you need to help you move successfully in your career. So find one in college and also find one professionally.
Yeah.
You know, if you know you want to be doing X and you're doing Y, find somebody doing X and see how they navigated their career to get to where they are. That is very, very important. Very important. So I would say that. And then I would also say, do a lot of research in the sense of like, if you feel like, you know, I need to, you know, go to this conference, but I can't find a way there, find out if somebody sponsors, you know, you to go there. Find out if there's scholarships out there. You know, really trying to make sure that you do a lot of background, like a lot of information digging and background, because it is important to be in the right rooms with the right people.
Yes.
It is very, very important. So, you know, I understand that times are hard, they get hard, money gets scarce, you know, things like that. It does happen, I get that. Try to do your due diligence and seeing if you could, you know, find a way there, you know. There was times I wanted to go to a conference and could not, but I knew a friend who worked at the airline and could give me a buddy pass, and then I'd get there some way. So it's like, you know, working the room and working, you know, your networks and figuring out how to navigate getting around an issue or trying to get somewhere is very, very important. So I think, you know, really honing in on those, you know, social skills is extremely important. Extremely important. No problem.
Thank you. And to close out, you've given so many great tips of advice. Is there any other tips of advice that you would give for success in navigating in the STEM industry, like how you've navigated your journey? Because, you know, the path is not always linear, but you can make it.
Right.
So do you have any, you've shared so much. Is there any more before we close out today?
I would definitely say, you know, find what you love in it. You know, engineering is a great field, and, you know, being transparent about what you want and if this is where you see yourself happy is very, very important. You know, my friends, I have a lot of friends that started in engineering, and that carried them to a certain point, and then they realize I want to do law, or I want to do sales, or I want to do something else. But being able to be honest and open and real about it is very important, because the last thing you want is to be stuck somewhere for 40 years and miserable. So, and that's a very common trope with a lot of older generations. And so I think, you know, being able to, you know, find out if there's, you know, maybe engineering itself is not it, but I do like managing people. So maybe I could be a manager of this engineering group and not necessarily the engineer itself. You know, those are very important. And I would say if you're early career, find out if you guys have like a rotational program. Those are very important, because a lot of times you'll find out what you want to do. You might not have to leave the company. You might not have to go on 1,000 interviews. What you want could be right under your nose. You just don't know that. And so being able to like find out, you know, this, my company offers this program, and there's so many programs at every company that's so different from each other, but also help you reach your goal of like finding out what you love career-wise. So
I love that. Thank you, Janessa,
no problem,
for joining us on All Things.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Thank you for being a guest on All Things STEM with Ashley. Everyone, check out her episode, and please like and subscribe and comment. We look forward to more great guests, and we will see you.
Bye.